strong team behind us here. I appreciate it very much. And so we're here obviously to talk about downtown and the resurgence that we're seeing. So it was about 2 years ago, obviously, when office buildings across our city shut down, retail businesses closed, restaurants closed their doors as we all tried to figure out how to deal with that dastardly virus, COVID-19, and the pandemic that it ensued all that. And obviously nobody had any clue about how long this was going to last, and was it going to be a month, was it going to be a year? Well, here we are almost 2 years later, and obviously the pandemic is still with us. We're learning how to live with it, though. So although the closures took place across our city when the virus came, it was most acutely felt here in our downtown area, which of course is the heart of our city. When you go to visit any city, where do you go usually? You go to visit downtown and you see what's going on. So the heart has got to be healthy, and in our case, obviously, that's downtown. Our city was not alone. The entire country, all of the world's cities have been suffering through the effects of the pandemic, and we're all trying to figure out what's the new downtown look like. How do we come back? 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I was at the United States Conference of Mayors meeting. It was the first time we'd gotten together in 2 years, and one of the most popular sessions was, what is the future of downtowns in America? So we're all trying to figure it out. We will. Americans are entrepreneurial and innovative, and clearly, in addition to how we're rebounding, there'll be new ways that people look at downtowns. And so while we're figuring out how to move our lives forward in the midst of the pandemic, we had another challenge with us, and that, of course, was our social justice protests in the summer of 2020 in response to the deaths of Breonna Taylor, our very own Breonna Taylor, and then George Floyd as well. And protesters, activists gathered right across the street from here calling for change and for us to do better and calling for us to be better. And hopefully we are in the process of doing that. We certainly are working hard at that, the entire city. So when you think about those 2 years, it was a lot. It was also the presidential transition from Donald Trump to Joe Biden, and just a lot going on, a lot of change for people to absorb. So we've implemented a lot of changes ourselves when it comes to the public safety and social justice side, banning of no-knock warrants, creating the Office for Inspector General. We continue to make other efforts in our city to make Louisville a more just and equitable city, and work I'm sure will continue far beyond the tenure that I have here in office here for the balance of this year. With COVID-19, we learned more about the virus, how we can help stem its spread through masking and vaccinations, and also how we can keep our economy moving forward in a safe way. And for those who haven't yet been vaccinated or boosted, please be part of this great recovery and do so as well. When the recession, the pandemic recession started, we didn't know how long that was going to last. And when we take a look at the Great Recession of 08 to 11, the impacts on that were felt by over a decade in some cities. Fortunately, we roared back from the pandemic recession. We're one of the first cities to recover almost all of our jobs. As of last month, we were 99.5% of the jobs recovered from the pandemic. National average is 85%. So Louisville's really outperformed economically. So as I said in the State of the City address just this past week, the state of our city is strong. In the past 13 months, we've announced $1.1 billion in future investments, nearly 4,800 new jobs, and that's just the companies that are asking for incentives from the state. So there's just a lot more that are growing without that. And then following a tough year in 2020, we saw activity and vibrancy begin to return to downtown last year, and we laid the groundwork for an even better 2022. In January 2021, to start helping create a path out of this, we created the Downtown Revitalization Team to lay out actions to improve cleanliness, public safety, and infrastructure, and to bring people back downtown. Brightside launched Sweep and Sip cleanup events in partnership with local breweries, and those events will resume monthly in March. We're investing in streetlight and sidewalk repairs. We hired additional homeless communications coordinators and have provided funding for the safe outdoor space to give our homeless residents a safe place to live and access services while working to transition them into more permanent housing. Our partners at Louisville Downtown Partnership have continued to lead beautification efforts and provide business outreach and offer support through their ambassadors. And then Louisville Tourism, through its hard work, is seeing numbers for conventions, visitors, and room nights on the rise again. Bourbonism is just in its very, very early stages. So bourbonism is really helping to new types of visitors that are just coming here for multi-day tourist experiences around bourbon and local food and our great natural environment. So led by bourbonism, leisure travel to Louisville picked up in 2021, and that is continuing into 2022. The Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport has reported that the first quarter of 2022 is already trending ahead of 2019. So that's really an amazing indicator of the comeback that we're seeing in activity in our city, and what no doubt is going to be a record-setting year for the airport as well. So we're really outpacing a lot of the rest of the country here in the recovery. We see that with downtown businesses as well. We had 30 retail openings in 2021 compared to 17 closings, so a net positive there. And then new development and investment continue in and around downtown, including the Derby City Gaming Facility at 4th and Market, the Bunkhouse Hotels under construction, the expansion of Angel's Envy, and renovations at the 500 West Jefferson Street office tower just across the street, and that's just to name a few. And now we're starting to see downtown workers continue to return to the office. Omicron threw a little wrench in the machinery, but that's now declining. So we're starting to see more and more people saying, okay, we're ready to come back. Now, last year, Louisville Metro Government and companies including Baird, Fifth Third Bank, and PNC brought their employees back downtown, and that's thousands of people once again coming downtown every day. Downtown is the biggest business park in the community, if you look at it that way, about 70,000 people. In 2019 would be coming downtown to work each and every day. And then more employees we see are going to be returning here in the coming month and months ahead. One of our major employers, Humana, Douglas is here representing them, will start bringing employees back to downtown in mid-March, so that's obviously a large employer. We appreciate that. Downtowns across America, as I mentioned, have been struggling in the wake of the pandemic, so we're not unique in that, but of course it feels like it is because this is our town and we want our solutions for our own city. But because of the actions that we've been taking and because of the commitment of our great business partners to downtown, we're seeing that momentum and that energy return. Downtown, like from Thursday through Sunday, especially if you come down in the evening, it's popping, especially the Nulu area, the Whiskey Row area. It's that daily or daytime type of workers that are down here that used to, flood into our restaurants, support our retail, where we're really looking for that momentum to come back during the work week. So I encourage everybody to come down and enjoy downtown anytime, but you'd be really delighted to see what's taking place here from Thursday to Sunday in different parts of downtown. Now, when we talk about commitment to downtown, a great example about that with our business community are the great folks at Baird right across the street. And we appreciate, and we're going to hear from Jim Allen here in a second. So at the same time that we saw reports and social media posts, and I hesitate to even refer to social media posts because for the most part, they're not very uplifting. Well, I can tell you that is the case too when people want to report on downtown. They tend to go down and be quite negative quite quickly. So it's like, downtowns are dead. Louisville downtown is dead. Well, I tell you, the people that didn't hear that was Baird. Baird was investing in the future of downtown during this down cycle of 2 years. The financial services firm invested $20 million in its new downtown headquarters space at 500 West Jefferson Street for its roughly 170 employees. Baird, of course, previously was Hilliard Lyons, and just over a century-long leader in our community in so many different ways, including helping with the comeback of our downtown. So I'm very grateful for that. And I'd like to welcome up Jim Allen, who's Vice Chairman of Baird, to talk about Baird's commitment to downtown. Jim?
Great. Thank you. Well, thank you, Greg, and it's really an honor and a privilege to be here. As Greg indicated, I'm Jim Allen, Vice Chairman of Baird, and previously the Chairman and CEO of Hilliard Lyons. I'm pleased and proud that Baird continues to share the same unwavering commitment to our community that was a cornerstone of our focus at Hilliard Lyons for over 160 years. In fact, our downtown Louisville office is considered HQ2 in the Baird organization, and as a company, we have approximately 4,600 employees and a global reach. In other words, Louisville plays a prominent role within Baird. Our ongoing dedication to philanthropy, civic involvement, and economic development in the community further underscores our commitment. On a personal note, downtown Louisville has been my work home and much more for over 40 years. The progress that has been made in our downtown over that time frame is remarkable. In fact, the last 12 to 15 years have been truly transformational. As a firm, I'm so proud that our fingerprints are all over this community as we have served as a municipal advisor and municipal bond underwriter working with Louisville Metro Government, MSD, JCPS, U of L Health, and of course the Arena Authority, where we were instrumental in making the Yum Center a reality. Just asked our friend Jim Host about our critical role there. So when we think about our downtown, we look at it through the lens of tremendous progress, where as a community we have invested so much already and taken so many important steps that are paving the way to a dynamic and exciting future. Make no mistake, it's essential for our downtown to thrive for so many reasons, and so much of the heavy lifting has been done. And as Mayor Fischer indicated, more is on the horizon. At Baird, as many of you know, and was just referenced, we put a stake in the ground at 500 West Jefferson, now known as 500W, with an investment of over $20 million in our newly renovated facilities where we occupy the top 5 floors. We've never hesitated for a minute to make that commitment, as downtown has been our home to Hilliard Lyons and now Baird since our founding in 1854. So as we pick up the pace with associates returning to downtown, we ask others to join us. It's time for us to double down on downtown because we know that we're better together as a community. Thank you for allowing me to make a few comments here, and we look forward to an exciting future in downtown Louisville. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Doubling down on downtown. You heard it here first. All right, good job.
I'm getting that copyrighted soon.
Now, we hear a lot, obviously, about the future of work being remote workers, so that's changed all of our lives here in the past couple of years, and we're obviously seeing that shift in how people work. And there's a lot of questions, about how long-standing that shift is going to be. Is this the new normal? Is this just going to be this way for a couple more years? Well, the fact is we don't know. What we do know is Louisville is a great city for people who either want to go to work every day or if they want to work remote. And we see that, and we've seen more people move to the city that say they might be working for a company in San Francisco or New York, but they want to live in a more sane place with a more reasonable cost of living and still high-quality amenities. So they move to Louisville. And remote work isn't for everybody or every industry. And anytime you run into somebody when you're at work, when you run into somebody at the hallways or on the street or grab a coffee or grab a lunch, that kind of in-person collision is when there's an opportunity for innovation and for collaboration. Some of the great companies in the world have been created that way, or some of the great ideas, some of the great friendships, some of the great romances. Who knows what's been created when you run into that way. But we are social beings, and it's important for people to be together. So there will always be folks coming to the workplace. So what does this balance look like now between return to work and staying at home? We'll be figuring it out. As many organizations did during the pandemic, the Young Professional Associations of Louisville shifted to virtual events. And it's obviously difficult to network virtually, right, when you're trying to meet new people. So Cassidy Hyde is with us today, and she's the executive director of YPAL. So Cassidy, if you tell us about your all's experience of going remote and what you've heard from YPAL members about their experiences. So please welcome Cassidy Hyde. Cassidy.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for allowing us to be here today and to talk, about the future of our city and what that looks like from a young professional standpoint. My name is Cassidy Hyde. I am the executive director for YPAL, the Young Professionals Association of Louisville. And our mission is to connect, engage, and develop young professionals across our community. But I want to start on a personal note. When I began my new role in May of 2021, I was so excited to be working downtown. I'm not from Louisville. My previous role wasn't in downtown, and I was so excited to come back downtown. And I remember walking downtown on my first week here, and I saw some tourists taking a selfie with like the statue of David, and they were trying to squeeze their whole family, into one selfie because they didn't know what to do. And so I walked up to him and I was just like, "Hey, you want me to take your picture?" And I still remember like just the look of like surprise and almost just like, "Okay, this is nice," that we offered to help, and I took their picture and they were just so excited to continue their stay in Louisville. But it's that energy that I was after, right? When I was excited to come work downtown, and that culture of our community and our city that happens in the heart of downtown. So it's been such a joy to see that energy return since I started in May of 21, and we are excited to be a part of that momentum. Being together sometimes is just as easy as, taking a selfie or taking a picture of a friend. And I want to lean into our mission for YPAL, right? So connect is a big part of what we do. Another story I remember, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but I remember working to schedule a meeting with a colleague, and we kept going back and forth on Zoom, like this time or this time. And I saw him walking downtown, and we were able to catch up, and I, could hear about things that have happened in his life for the first time in over a year. And those collisions, as Mayor Fischer mentioned, are exactly what happens whenever you're downtown. And again, I know I'm not alone in those stories. And in fact, we actually just surveyed, we have 1,000 members of YPAL in our community, and we just did a survey to ask people what they want to see from YPAL in 2022. And our results showed us that 80% of respondents had already returned to work either full-time or part-time, which was great for us to see because, as he mentioned, we're also a networking organization and want to be able to create those meaningful experiences for our members. And on top of that, 86% of our respondents told us that they found downtown to be the most convenient location for our events through the rest of the year, which was also very refreshing for us to hear that they're wanting to go to stuff after work, or they want to come downtown even if they're not already here. So that connection is really what we're after. The next kind of pillar of our mission is engagement. And so we brought our events back safely in person this past summer, and we believe that at work, after work, everywhere in between, our community is stronger when we are together. In that same survey, we asked people, what are the events you want to see from YPAL in 2022? How can we help you connect, engage, and develop? And the top two were about relationship building. How to make friends as an adult and relationship building at work and outside of that were two things that young professionals wanted to see. And that's not an accident. We just have been missing that. That's something we haven't had over the past couple of years. So above all the data and stories, it's really those stories of engagement and belonging and community that continue to drive us. Another story of that is during our last Emerging Leaders program that we hosted, a young professional shared with us that he graduated college in May of 2021 virtually. He moved to Louisville for work virtually, and he hadn't met a single person that he works with or been able to make any connections really in person in the city since then until that program. He was able to come and make those meaningful connections, and they were able to, go to downtown restaurants and games and all kinds of stuff together. And that's kind of the impact that we're after. We believe that creating meaningful impact for our members means being in person. We would be remiss to mention, that we also engaged a whole new audience over the past 2 years, right? Some people can't make it to our events. We want to continue our commitment to making our events accessible to everybody to be able to join us. And that is kind of leads into the develop piece. So, young professionals are leaders of today and leaders of tomorrow. The past 2 years have taught us that what kind of leaders we all want to be and what kind of leaders we want to see in our community. YPAL members have been leaders in the resurgence of downtown and returning to offices around Louisville, and equally important, enjoying events, amenities, activities offered around the city. However, I'm sure you also hear, you're like, what are you talking about? Young professionals want to sit on their couch with their dog and work from home. Sure, that's always a nice option, right? So that grace and flexibility, resilience and transparency that we have learned over the past 2 years, I would urge everyone to take with you and as we enter this next phase. As we're bringing folks back in person, back downtown, whether it's to celebrate for team bonding or whether it's back into the office, we have to continue to invest in our talent, to trust our teams to do what's best for them, and to challenge the status quo. Because I'm not convinced that there is a new normal. This is all just new, and we're all figuring it out, but also taking, what we've learned with us, and we're going to be better for it. Except maybe my dog. Someone might have to call him after this and explain why I'm not here. So thank you all so much for having us and for your investment in our community.
All right, thank you, Cassidy, and good job. It's been fun to see YPAL grow over the years. There are about 1,000 members now and growing. So, and if you want to join YPAL, where do you go?
YPAL.org.
YPAL.org. Okay, thank you. I'd like to recognize Jeff O'Brien, who's here also. Jeff is our chief of Louisville Forward. So they're over all of our economic development, our real estate development, our talent development as well. So Jeff, thank you and the whole team. So obviously work's changing, and we got to adjust and accommodate to that change. But we also know that there's always going to be a desire for the human interaction that we've talked about here. It's absolutely critical for leadership development, management development, the type of innovation that we're looking for as well. So I'm a big fan of getting people back to work. So let's get another voice on this, and I'd like to hear from the entrepreneurial community and also a downtown business owner who, through her organization, Global Economic Diversity Development Initiative, JEDI, supports women, LGBTQ community, minority, veteran, and disabled owner enterprises. These businesses already face hurdles to accessing capital and other resources, and so they could be particularly hard hit during the pandemic. So with support from JEDI and Buy Black Lou and similar organizations, as well as now as new investments in minority business incubators, we're hoping here in Louisville to grow the number of black-owned businesses in our city, and we're being very intentional about that, including obviously downtown. So that's the city's tremendous economic momentum is benefiting all Louisvillians. And Tawana Bain is a born entrepreneur. She's created a lot of different entities, always coming at them with different levels of creativity and innovation that are always interesting and quite uplifting as well. So I appreciate her very much as one of our city's great entrepreneurs. So Tawana Bain.
Thank you, Mayor Fischer. And I'm going to talk a little bit about JEDI, but most of you know me as the CEO of T. Bain & Co. And one thing about our organization is we are always looking to inspire people to leave the earth and relationships better than where they found them. And the reality is, in order to do that, you've got to start with something really simple and something that I think is just an effective gesture, supporting each other. And part of supporting each other also means supporting small businesses, because we are the hum and the soul of our community. Small businesses lift up cities like Louisville. We're creating jobs, we're the fabric, we're the inspirers, we're the leaders. And so understanding how important it is when you walk by a small business and how your patronage can make the difference between whether a family can make their mortgage, whether their children can go off to college, is important. It's not just another logo that you see when you're walking down the street. In our organization, as an entrepreneur, T. Bain & Co., we're always striving to connect people. You know, you heard Mayor Fischer mention LGBTQ, Black, women, all minorities, veteran, disabled. We understand that if we're not weaving together and supporting one another, all of us will not make it out of what we had in both the pandemic as well as social unrest. And as a business owner, I do understand imminently how important it is to have your workers back to work. And I think it's important to say thank you for everybody that got up off their couch with their dog and came back to work for a small business. I am an example of what getting off your couch looks like. All of our businesses, the publishing, printing, restaurant, gosh, it's just a shame. I have so many, I'm losing count. The retail, we were shuttered. We were shut down to 6, 7 staff. But because of those of you that picked up the phone and said, hey, I want to come work for your company, or sent us an email, we are proud to say that we're almost at 50 employees post the pandemic. We're small. We're small. We're not the giants. We're not them. But it is those of you who are willing to come downtown and work with us that allowed us to be a turnaround story, because it certainly was not because of Tawana Bain. I talked about, retail and restaurants, and I want to share this because I think it's important. I think 2020 taught us all a lot about the part of our community that did not feel as that we were all in this together. So not just as an entrepreneur, but as a Black and as a Black woman entrepreneur, I do want you all to understand, I've seen it, I've lived it, and I do understand where some of the double standards live. But it is those people that got up off their couches and sent those emails and those phone calls of every hue and every background that made a difference. But we cannot neglect the fact that we've got a long way to go with Black and especially Black women-owned businesses. It is critical that we double down. And so we're not just doubling down on downtown. I need you guys to double down on the Black and brown businesses that are downtown. They're going to make mistakes just like everybody else. Give them a second chance. If there's open space and office space, find a way to get them in there so that they can scale and so that they can thrive. It is people of every color that contributed to my success. They made a way out of no way sometimes when I wasn't sure of how to do it. And I'm not just asking for you to come back and just go to work, because I think it's important to understand how our economy works. But when you are at work downtown, you have to eat, right? You're going to go and buy a sandwich, have dinner, go to happy hour. All of that makes our economy go round. You might stop by a local small business and buy a gift for your husband or your mom or your wife or your children. Those things make a big difference to our bottom line. I enjoy when I have the ability to venture out and shop with small business and to see the look on their face, because I may have been the only patron that walked through that door that day. And that's the encouragement that they need to keep going when it might have gotten tough. And I don't just talk about Black and brown because I am Black and brown. I had the wherewithal, as crazy as it seemed, in the middle of my businesses being shut down, to launch the Global Economic Diversity Development Initiative, which is also known as JEDI. And it was a scary feeling because I had been in this city for over 15 years and I had my head down and I was focusing on trying to build my own infrastructure and build my own business to stay in the game. So I wasn't certain how I would be received by my own fellow Black entrepreneurs. And it was a proud moment when many of them tapped me on the shoulder and asked me, how are you doing this and how have you made it? And that was the encouragement that I needed to really get going. But then I also realized, man, you know what? I have not made it the traditional way that some of my peers had. And it was up to me to teach them some of those non-traditional ways to gain success. And that's what JEDI has done. We've established an incubator program or an accelerator program called Just Boss Up, where we take businesses that are in hustle mode to legit, from Cash App and Venmo to bank accounts and getting registered with the state. You've heard the litany and long list of businesses that I have. I have a little bit of experience in doing so. But moreover, I also want to come back to Louisville, those that are both downtown and organizations outside of downtown that also made a commitment. James Graham Brown, Humana Foundation, almost $500,000. And this young Black female entrepreneur believing in the story that we need more resources for these entrepreneurs. And as much as I am biased, right, to something that I founded, it is not missed on me that there are others in this community that have done an amazing job. AMP's program, I am so proud of our community for the investments that they've made and the stories that are coming out of that organization, what's happening with One West, what's happening with GLI and its incubator program for their minority program, Urban League's work. At the end of the day, listen, we're all competing for a lot of the same dollars, but we cannot make one mistake. We have a lot of things that we did not have prior to the pandemic, and many of those initiatives are happening right in the heart of downtown. And to, Mayor Fisher's point, there's a lot of people that can easily say some negative things. And if you listen to it, you almost think it's true until you get out or off the couch and you drive downtown. I mean, there were plenty of times where I came down in the midst of everything and I'm like, whoa, this is not what I expected. I did not expect to see our nightlife coming back the way that I have. I did not expect to see the number of patrons or to have difficulty finding a parking spot. So that says a lot about what we've done and what we've accomplished and where we can go if we continue to understand that it is not just some of us, but when all of us come out of this better than we were before, we can correct a lot of the complaints and a lot of the feelings that we saw transpiring across our nation and out on the streets. I want to leave you with, at the end of the day, if we want to be a more equitable city, and if we want to see downtown come back, we've got to do some very non-traditional things with some of the non-traditional players. And I'm very, very proud to be one of those non-traditional players that many of you have supported and undergirded to get me this far. So for those of you that are tuning in, I hope that you will pick up the phone, whether it's me or another organization that resides downtown. I hope that you'll pick up the phone and ask how you can do your part. Thank you.
All right, good job, Tawana. 700% growth is good, no matter what the number is, so we appreciate that. She mentioned a couple of different entities. Let me remind everybody about the Millionaire Market also. Nashon Trabu is our entrepreneurial founder behind that. And they do have a pop-up mall, in effect. At least one weekend a month, oftentimes more. They'll be going back outside at 4th Street Live in April, I think it will be, and great way to support micro businesses, primarily black-owned female businesses. There's a few guys in there as well, but mainly ladies taking care of business. So folks, so big picture, Omicron is declining, right? And we're learning how to live with the virus right now. It's not totally gone. I think it's going to be with us as an endemic for the rest of time, just like the flu is. But people are returning to work. Obviously, schools are in session, which we're grateful for that. And so when you think about downtown 2 years ago to where we are right now, we need people to come back to work. And I really encourage all businesses to do that, not only for the innovation that we're talking about and the leadership development, but I want you to think, especially if you were working downtown, about the shoe repair company that you supported, or the retail business that you would go into, or that favorite dish you would have at that restaurant. Most of these companies, their strategy these past 2 years has simply been to survive. And that was in nobody's business plan 2 years ago, I can guarantee you that. So when you come back to work, not only are you going to be doing a good thing for where you work and for your relationships there, but you're going to help these small businesses, which are the soul of any city, where you go and you just kind of get a feel for the vibe of what you have. And we've got a great city with a great vibe and great people. So please come back and support those small businesses. We're really excited about where our city is right now. Our trend line is super positive, so we're excited about the future of our city, and you should be too. So thanks for coming here today, and we're happy to take any questions. Yeah.
I have a question for the gentleman from Humana.
Douglas.
Sir, I went downtown because I knew what this was going to be about today. And I went and was a couple restaurants, and I talked to George, the owner of Beer Notes. And I said, word on the street is that Humana's going to be next to come back.
Yep.
And he said, that's incredible. Downtown isn't downtown without Humana. Your response to that, to know that folks are so eager, sir, to have you back.
Yeah, look, I think our associates are eager to get back and be able to see each other in person. And I know that we have about 10,000 employees that are in the area. And I think they are eager to see each other in person. And we know when they're back downtown, that's going to help the downtown economy. So they're excited about that. We sent out an announcement earlier this week that we're going to be welcoming everyone back into our offices on March the 16th. So I think our associates are excited to see each other in person after 2 years of Zoom calls. And look, we know that that's going to have an impact on the downtown economy. We're excited about that as well.
Let's hear it for March 16th. Hey! All right.
Could you address overall, did you mention how many people over the next are going to be phased into coming back?
Rebecca, do you want to give a guess at that? This is Rebecca Flyshaker, so of course everybody knows her from the city where she worked for 22 years, but in the past couple months she's become the CEO of Louisville Downtown Partnership, so she's got all those numbers.
Or do I? We're actually sending out a survey to ask that question. There's nowhere to report it, and I think with staggering and the hybrid that will continue, I think it's hard to know for sure. I'm going to guess it's hundreds by the week, but we just want to be able to see for sure. You could ask these employers behind me, actually, to get probably better information than I have.
Anybody, Kim, you want to comment, or anybody what your specific return to work is? Huh? Come on.
So Fifth Third Bank came back in May of 2021, so we have been downtown, and I will tell you, the first 30 days was a tough transition, getting people back into their operating rhythms, but really now, as we look forward, we're almost a year in, and I will tell you, I mean, people are comfortable, and we're safe, and it's okay, and we've got to feel good about being downtown, we've got to feel good about working with each other and coming together for our city. There you have it.
Yeah, so I think, look, if downtown was 70,000 people, once we're back in this return to work hybrid, maybe we'll be back at 50 or 60. We just really are unsure at this point. And that just could be for the short term. I mean, nobody knows what this is going to look like 2 years from now, but we will adapt as usual. Yeah.
Unrelated downtown, but today there's been a lot of pushback to Quint Brown being released on bail from Fred Greenberg, Ted McConnell. I wanted to ask you, do you think the Louisville Community Bail Fund acted appropriately in bailing out Mr. Brown, and do you think that the cash bail system needs to be reformed?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different issues around bail, right, and cash bail. When people are in on low-level nonviolent offenses and low bail, I mean, you've seen the really positive impact of bail and cash bail. Quintez Brown's situation is very different. The bail levels are set by state law, and so an organization came and paid that. That's currently legal to do that. And then with Mr. Brown, you've got an issue of, gun violence, perpetrated potential mental health challenges, and what's the best way to address that. And people need to realize that now he's under home incarceration, right? So he's not roaming around the city. So he's confined in a space overseen by Metro Corrections. That's what the court ordered the city to do, so we're complying with that. Okay, anything else? All right, thank you all for coming. Come back downtown.